everyone, and welcome to the Bold and Beautiful podcast. I'm your host, Amanda, and I've titled this week's episode, A Tragic Loss. If you haven't heard already, I was extremely upset and surprised to learn who we have lost. I'm not going to say it now because I don't want to ruin it in case you don't know, but you will find out very soon. This week has been difficult for me because I got one of my migraines. And if you're new to the show, I have horrible migraines that I have to actually take shots for. It's like an EpiPen. And I got one of my bad migraines. And it lasted for 3 days. Even with the shot, my husband gave me the shot. But then I would go to sleep, and then when I would wake up the next morning, the shot would wear off and my headache would be right back. It was absolutely miserable. If you've ever had a migraine, then you totally get where I'm coming from. And if you've never had a migraine, then consider yourself extremely lucky. So once again, that's 2 weeks in a row, I had to watch all of the episodes in one night. Thank goodness. There was some funny things that happened, so it wasn't as dark, but it was still pretty dark. Okay, so I don't really have any exciting stories or anything to tell you guys because I was mainly just sick the past 3-4 days. So let's go ahead and get into the news. Pearson Faudet, who used to play Thomas, has been cast in a new show on the CW called Glamorous. Make sure you check that out and support Pearson because he was a very good Thomas, and I like supporting the actors even if they leave the soap opera. Okay, moving on. Rome Flynn, who played Zende, has a new movie coming out. Well, actually it is out, called A Medea Family Funeral. So congrats to him. He's doing good things. Adrienne Franks, who played Amber Moore, has a new horror movie coming out called The Thing That Keeps You. And I think it's set like in the 70s. One thing that I thought was cool is that she will be playing opposite her real life husband. So that is interesting. And I am going to show my support and definitely catch that. I like horror movies a lot though. Next up, we have one of my favorites. I don't know why he isn't on the show full time, is Sean Kanan, who played Deacon Sharp, Hope's father. He has a new book coming out called Success Factor X, and it's going to have a lot of behind the scenes stuff. It's going to have a lot of advice and things from different soap stars and different actors. So that ought to be cool. I think you can pre-order it soon. Moving on, I wanted to let you guys know, kind of give you a heads up, just because I found this interesting. The accent challenge that Zoe and Xander are in, just so you guys know, Zoe is played by Kiara Barnes, and she is actually not English. So her American accent that she's been doing lately is her real accent. And Xander, who is played by Aidan Bradley, is actually English. So his American accent is fake. Just food for thought. I thought y'all might find that interesting. So now really listen to them when they talk because that's her real accent. And that's his fake accent, so it's kind of funny. That is all the news I have for this week. So enough with the chit chat, let's get to the recap. So that brings us into Monday, March the 11th. The show opens at Wyatt and Sally's house. The dinner party is over and everyone is gone. Sally makes a comment that it was a very strange night and that Flo seemed almost obsessed with Hope. Wyatt agrees that Flo was very intense. Sally thinks that Hope and Flo connected because they both had a baby, but neither one of them has a baby to go home to. That is a really good point. It's bothering Wyatt a lot because when he saw Flo at the tiki bar, when he asked her if she had any kids, she said no. But the Flo that he remembers always wanted to be a mother. And so that's just bothering him a little bit that she lied to him. But Sally feels like he's reading way too much into it. Maybe she was just embarrassed. Then they kiss. You know how these two are. They kiss, one thing leads to another, and then they have sex as usual. And afterwards, Wyatt makes it clear that Sally doesn't need to feel threatened by Flo at all. And Sally assures him that she isn't. Now we head over to the cabin with Hope and Liam. They are proud of themselves for going out and having a fun night. Hope is so glad Liam talked her into going. They both just can't believe the odds. Wyatt's ex is Phoebe's birth mother. Wow. What are the odds? Right? Come on, people. Hope and Liam both noticed that Flo seemed almost guilty or really sorry for them, which they think is really sweet. Little do they know. Hope mentions that Flo insisted they should have another child, and that surprises Liam. They agree that they both like Flo, and Hope wants to get to know her better. Hope's a little envious of Flo because at least she knows her daughter is here and safe and happy. Poor Hope. Now we head over to Flo's apartment. Flo is sending Wyatt a text. Thanks again for having me over. Happy we're reconnecting after all these years. Sally is lovely. Then there's a knock at the door, and guess what? It's Zoe. She barges in and demands to know what Flo was doing at Wyatt's house. Then she accuses Flo of stalking Hope, which is kind of funny. So Flo explains everything. And when she gets to the Wyatt's her ex part, Zoe is shook. She is like freaking out. She starts yelling at Flo. She shouldn't even be in the same state as Hope. Flo needs to leave, and she has to keep her mouth shut because if she doesn't, they will all go to prison. Finally, Flo puts her foot down and she says, look, I'm not leaving, and I'm beginning to think that what I have to do is tell Hope the truth. Flo, she basically can't take the guilt anymore. She has to tell Hope. She just can't take it anymore. Zoe is freaking out. She doesn't even know what to say. So then Flo desperately tries to talk some sense into Zoe. And just when Flo has Zoe convinced they should tell the truth, guess who walks in the door? Ding, ding, ding. Yeah. You got it. Reese. Great. Just frickin' great. So Reese came back into town to check on things. Flo and Zoe inform him that they are going to fix what he has done. They are going to tell Hope the truth. And Reese freaks out. He's like, you can't. And Zoe agrees with Flo. They need to tell Hope. So Flo looks at Reese and says, look, there's nothing you can do to stop us. And that's how Monday ends. So that brings us into Tuesday, March the 12th. The show opens at Flo's apartment with Flo, Reese, and Zoe. Flo is determined she is going to tell Hope the truth tonight. And there's nothing Reese can do to stop her. But Reese tries to talk to Flo. But she is not having any of it. She's not hearing any of it. She thought he was a good person, a good man. But he stole a life from a mother, for money, for a gambling debt, for himself. Then she grabs a stack of money out of her purse and she throws it at Reese, right in his face. Then Reese tells them that it was to protect Zoe and that all of this is killing him. He desperately tries to convince Zoe that he is not a monster. He was trying to protect her, and he's very, very sorry. But no one can know the truth. Now we head over to the cabin with Hope and Liam. Liam has just finished texting Wyatt to thank him for the dinner and for getting them out of the house. And they both, Hope and Liam, can't get over this crazy coincidence. But Hope thinks maybe it's not a coincidence at all. She thinks that there is something more going on with Flo than she is saying. They both hope she's not in trouble. Is she ever? Liam thinks that Sally really handled herself well, considering Flo and Wyatt's past. And then someone knocks on the door, and it's Tiffany, the intern. She has dropped by to bring Hope the new designs for Hope for the future. She tells Hope how sorry she is about her baby and how she's thinking of her and etc., etc., and then she leaves. And of course, this makes Hope sad again. And Liam tells her that he agrees with Flo. He knows she is meant to be a mother, so she cannot give up. Now we head over to Wyatt's house with Wyatt and Sally, and they are in the bed as usual. Sally stole Wyatt's phone and won't give it back, and Wyatt finally gets his phone back, and he sees the text from Liam, and it makes them both really happy because they're just very relieved and happy that they could help in some way. So Sally mentions that she's a little worried that Bill might be getting cold feet about Spencer Fashions. But Wyatt assures her that Bill will make good on their deal because he doesn't want to lose him. And that is true. And then Sally tells Wyatt, thank you for all of this, for everything. And they talk about how much they're in love, etc., etc. Now we head back over to Flo's apartment with Reese, Flo, and Zoe. Reese explains exactly what he did at the clinic. He tells the whole story over again. And once again, I just can't bring myself to feel sorry for him. Reese only wanted to keep Zoe safe. I get that. But there were other options. Reese begs them not to say anything. He wants Flo to go back to Vegas. And he wants Zoe to convince Hope to have another child. There you go. Problem solved. That's how he's acting. Like, no big deal. Zoe, surprisingly, changes her mind. And she takes Reese's side. They can't say anything. They have to be quiet. They have to keep their mouths shut. And this pisses Flo right off. Reese is horrible, guys. He's horrible. He scares Zoe by telling her that she will go to prison too. So they agree to keep a secret. Flo never actually agrees, but she doesn't say no either. So that's iffy. Then Reese hugs and kisses Zoe and tells her how much that he loves her. He loves her so much. Yeah, number one dad. Dad of the year over here. Then he leaves. And Flo is mad. She walks over to the desk and she throws everything off the desk onto the floor in a rage. She cannot believe Zoe changed her mind. Now Zoe begs Flo to keep quiet, but Flo just stares daggers at her, and that's how Tuesday ends. So that brings us into Wednesday, March the 13th. The show opens at Steffy's house. Steffy is calling Liam to ask if Hope and himself would come over because she has something important she needs to talk to them about. And Liam says, sure, no problem. We head over to the cabin with Hope and Liam. Liam tells Hope that Steffy needs to talk to them ASAP, but that it's not an emergency and it's not really about the girls. It's nothing bad, basically. Now we head over to Forrester Creations in the side office with Donna and Katie. Donna is trying to matchmake again. And she comments how nice Katie looks today and how she will be seeing Bill later. Donna is not subtle at all. So Donna insists that Katie is falling for Bill again. She just doesn't know it yet. Which I thought was kind of funny. Donna says it's just her opinion, but she's her older sister, so she feels the need to tell her. Give her advice and stuff like that. So Katie admits that she is scared because of their past. They have already tried it twice, and she's been hurt many times. And I'm like, poor Katie. She is not on board because she doesn't want to get hurt. So Donna wants her to just think about it. She thinks that there is still something between them. And Katie says no, absolutely no matchmaking. And Donna's like, oh, sure, yeah, okay. Then Katie gets a text. Lunch with Brooke at Il Giardino. Now we head over to Spencer Publications in Bill's office with Justin, Sally, Wyatt, and Bill. They are having a meeting to discuss Spencer fashions, but quickly the discussion turns to Bill's personal life. And of course, Justin is also matchmaking, just like Donna, and he mentions that Bill has been busy lately with Katie and Will, and that he approves. Well, Bill rolls his eyes and tells Justin that they don't need a play-by-play of his personal life. And of course they ignore him. Wyatt agrees with Justin. He is all for Bill and Katie redo. A Bill and Katie redo. Bill explains that Katie and himself are just friends and co-parents. And that's where it ends. And everyone's like, oh, yeah, okay, sure. We believe you, sure, 100%. But their faces and eye rolls are definitely saying something different. And Bill says, look, it's not what y'all think. We're just friends. We respect each other. But Justin, Wyatt, and Sally aren't buying it. Wyatt tries to convince Bill to at least think about it. And then, weirdly, Bill gets a text, and he is saved by the phone. He has a meeting with the mayor at Il Giardino. Isn't that a coincidence? So, of course, Bill is super happy to be getting away from all of these people in his business. And he jumps up, and he's all happy, and he leaves. A few minutes later, Donna arrives. Her and Justin are flirting and laughing, and Wyatt and Sally are like, really? Do we need to leave? Do you want to be alone? And Donna says, not if you want to hear what's going on. So Donna tells them that she has been working on Katie, trying to get her to think about reuniting with Bill. Then they tell Donna that they were also working on Bill to get him to think about getting back together with Katie. And Donna and Justin are acting all surprised when they realize that Bill and Katie are on their way to the same place. Come on, we know you two did this. But they act all innocent, like, oh my goodness, what a coincidence. Now we head over to Il Giardino, and Bill is sitting at a table waiting for the mayor. And Katie walks in, and they see each other, and they don't realize that they have been set up yet. And Bill asks Katie to sit with him while they wait for their meetings. And they don't quite get what's happening just yet. Now we head back to Steffy's house. Liam and Hope have just arrived, and Steffy has some really important news. She is leaving. She is headed to Europe. That's where they always go on this show, Europe. She has some work to do at International, and she is bringing both girls with her. Steffy also is hoping that by her leaving and being away, maybe it will help Hope get over her tragedy. Hope at first disagrees, and I think she's uncomfortable because she doesn't want to keep Liam from seeing the girls. But Liam actually agrees with Steffy. So basically, Steffy wants them to focus on each other and their marriage and healing while she is gone. And poor Hope, she still feels guilty for keeping Liam away from the girls and away from his family, and which is, it's sad and it's ridiculous. I just feel bad for her. So Steffy basically begs Hope to heal and work on herself and even consider starting a new family. And when she gets back, she wants to see both of them smiling and enjoying life. And that's how Wednesday ends. So that brings us into Thursday, March the 14th. The show opens at Steffy's house with Steffy and Taylor. Taylor is really concerned about Steffy going on this trip. She is being a typical worried mom. We learn that Taylor plans to join her on the trip, so that's good. And she will have Amelia too, so she should be fine. Steffy tries to explain that this trip will be good for everyone, especially Hope and Liam. Taylor, of course, freaks out because Steffy is advocating for Hope and Liam's marriage. Just when I start to like Taylor again, it always goes the other way. So she starts the same old song and dance. I can't believe that you're pushing Liam away and you should be with Liam. It's all Hope and Brooke's fault, etc., etc. Steffy gets really annoyed. Great. Mother of the year over here. Taylor wants her to fight for Liam. Taylor just can't help herself. She is like a broken record. Like, she just can't stop. And you know what? I refuse to write it down again because I'm just not going to write. She says the same thing over and over and over, and I'm not going to write it down again. So Steffy says, okay, enough. I will not take Hope's husband after she just lost her child. And I will not kick her when she is down. And I'm like, yes, finally. Thank you, Steffy. Now we head over to the cabin with Liam and Ridge. And you know what? I was just thinking, no matter who Liam picked, whether he picked Hope or Steffy, Ridge would still be his father-in-law. That's kind of funny and weird, but funny. Anyway, so Ridge stopped by to check on Liam. He wants to make sure that Liam is okay. Ridge knows that Liam is grieving. And he's worried that he's so focused on Hope that he's not going to grieve himself. And Liam admits that he drives up to Mulholland and he screams into the abyss. And that's how he's handling it. And Ridge just wants him to know that he's there for him if he needs anything. If he just needs someone to talk to, he's there. And then Ridge asks how he feels about Steffy leaving with the girls. Liam admits he was very surprised by the news, but he didn't resist because of the whole Hope issue. Ridge is a little confused, so Liam explains that Hope is doing that thing where she blames herself, and she keeps trying to push him away, trying to push him to Steffy, and he looks right at Ridge and he says, that is not going to happen. Liam is honest though with Ridge, and he says that he really doesn't love the idea of being away from Kelly, but he appreciates that Steffy is trying to help Hope. And you know what? I'm over it. Because now Ridge has to start with his crap. I wonder what life would be like if Bill didn't take advantage of Steffy. Really? Again? I can't with Ridge and Taylor today. Like, I literally cannot with them. So Liam doesn't agree that Bill took advantage of Steffy because that's not what Steffy said happened. But of course, we all know Ridge and Taylor will never see it that way. They will never see it differently than Bill is the evil guy who took advantage of Steffy. Now we head over to Bill's office with Donna, Justin, Sally, and Wyatt. They are all having lunch, and Donna and Justin are just smiling from ear to ear because their little matchmaking setup plan is working. And so far, so good. Donna is convinced that Bill and Katie will reunite. She would put money on it. She really sees that Bill is changing. And then they all agree that Bill really does seem like he has changed. They are all hoping that magic is happening on their date. Now we head over to Il Giardino with Bill and Katie. They are investigating and realize that they have been set up. Bill admits that normally he would be mad, but he actually doesn't mind at all. Katie and Bill have a good idea who set them up. They have a really good idea who set them up. But they decide to go ahead and enjoy their lunch date together. Why not? Katie, you can tell, is a little uncomfortable because Bill is being so charming. Oh my gosh, he's being so charming. And it would be really hard to say no to him. Let's be honest. If that man was charming you, it would be hard to say no. Okay? So he comments how Thorne is an idiot to let her and Will go. He is a complete fool. So they finish their meal and Katie goes to the ladies' room. And while she's gone, Bill is thinking about when they got married and when they had Will, etc., etc. And then a few minutes later, Katie comes back to the table and Bill is sitting there and he is clearly upset. He looks like he's in shock. And he tells her that he just got horrible news. Now we head back to Steffy's house and Taylor answers her cell phone. And she starts saying, no, 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 and crying and crying. It can't be true, no. And Steffy runs out of the nursery and says, Mom, what is it? What is it? And that's how Thursday ends. So that brings us into Friday, March the 15th. The show opens at Bill's office, and he is very upset. He is pacing and teary-eyed. Katie walks in. She was worried and wanted to check on him. They agree they need to tell Will, but not today. Then Katie hugs him, and Liam, Hope, Sally, and Wyatt arrive. Bill has obviously given them the news, which we don't know yet. Liam and Wyatt are in shock. Hope and Sally are too. Everyone is so sad. We learn that it was a blood clot, and that's all that we know. It's so sad. And they're talking about Caroline. So, of course, they're all devastated, as am I. Now we head over to Brooke's house. Ridge is clearly upset. If you're new to the show, Ridge used to be married to Caroline. Long story. So Ridge is clearly upset. And Quinn is there helping out in the kitchen because Brooke is out of town. Steffy and Taylor arrive. And they both were very worried about Ridge. They wanted to check on him. Then Eric comes in and he explains that everyone is just so upset and that Thomas and Douglas are on their way. Then we see a picture of Caroline and they are all talking about how Caroline Spencer is gone but not forgotten. She's one of a kind, etc., etc. And they are waiting for Thomas to get there so that they can find out exactly what happened. Bill and Katie, Wyatt, Sally, Hope, and Liam all arrive. And Bill tells Eric how much he appreciates the invite. Thomas finally arrives with Douglas. And the new Douglas is adorable. So everyone hugs him and, you know, everyone tells them how sorry they are and you know what happens when someone dies. They're just trying to comfort him. So we learn that Caroline was about to ask Liam and Wyatt to be Douglas's godfathers. So he would have two, which is so sweet. And Wyatt and Liam are touched. Then Bill and Thomas have a moment together. And Bill feels horrible. He feels horrible. He feels like he lost her a long time ago. But Thomas stresses to him that Caroline really, really loved him. And she saw him as her father figure. And he stresses to Bill that he needs to know that Caroline forgave him for everything. On the other side of the room, Hope is bonding with Douglas because they both are suffering losses. So Hope takes him to the kitchen to get some drink. And now Sally decides it's time that she needs to speak to Thomas. If you're new to the show, Thomas and Sally used to be an item. So she walks over to Thomas, and Thomas immediately apologizes for what happened between them. Sally also apologizes for his loss, and she gives him a hug. And Wyatt is watching all of this. So poor Thomas, he is clearly so sad and so distraught. He is very much suffering. So he starts crying. And he thanks everyone for being there for him. He really appreciates everyone's support. It means so much to him, and it would mean so much to Caroline. And then they all assure him that they are there for him no matter what, whatever he needs, any time of the day. All he has to do is ask. And he's touched by this. And he's touched by all the love, I think. And he starts crying more. So Ridge, Taylor, and Steffy all give him a huge hug. So they have a big family hug. And that's how Friday ends. So let's break this down. I cannot take Ridge and Taylor this week. Please respect what Steffy and Liam want. Jeez, they're adults. Taylor is a damn broken record. And Ridge just cannot help himself. They have to meddle. They are both ridiculous. But I do feel sorry for Ridge because at one time he really, really loved Caroline. So I do feel bad for him because I know he's sad. And side note, I'm really missing Brooke for sure. Now let's talk about Steffy leaving town. Honestly, I don't have that much to say. We all knew that this was coming because of Jacqueline's maternity leave. So I'm really not surprised, and she will be missed very much. Let's talk about Donna and Justin. I approve of these two getting back together because they were very flirty with each other. I like it. I have no problem with it. I totally approve. Their matchmaking, they're not too skillful at matchmaking. Like, they're not subtle at all. But I know that they think that they're doing what's best for them. And it's definitely coming from a good place. So I kind of have to give them a pass. Normally, I would say don't meddle in people's lives, but I don't think that they mean any harm or that they are going to do any harm. And I would like to see these two back together. Now let's talk about Thomas. I feel horrible about the circumstances because Caroline was one of my favorite characters. But I am super happy that we have Thomas back in town. And the new little Douglas is so adorable. I'm just curious what kind of trouble that Thomas is going to make. And what kind of trouble he's going to make for the family. I'm hoping that he doesn't cause trouble with Wyatt and Sally, but we will just have to see, I guess. Alright, Flo and Zoe. Flo is going to crack. I just don't know how long it's going to take. I don't see Zoe cracking because she really doesn't want to put her dad in prison. But I see Flo cracking. I don't know how long she can hold out. And side note, Reese is horrible. And that's it. There's not much else you can say. He's horrible. He basically blackmailed Zoe into being on his side by scaring her. He's just, wow. So I feel bad for Flo on one hand, because the guilt is killing her. But on the other hand, come on, Flo. You know what you need to do, so do it. Alright, now let's talk about Katie and Bill. I am on the fence about Katie and Bill. If Bill is not going to hurt Katie this time, then I'm for it. But if he's going to hurt her again, I'm not for it. And I know we can't tell the future, so we don't know that. But I am just not sure about how I feel about this. Because I think that they do make a good couple and a good team. Because she is the only one who can tell him like it is and put up with his crap. But he has hurt her over and over and over. And I really, really don't want to have to watch that again. I want to believe desperately that Bill has changed. But he always does this. And then everyone falls in love with him and everyone trusts him. And then he does something pretty much almost unforgivable, if not unforgivable. And you're right back where you started with, why did I believe that he changed? And this is not the first time this has happened. So I would like to know what you guys think about this. I really would, because I'd like to know if you are for them getting back together or against. I listened to the Bold and Beautiful Rewind. Y'all need to go listen to it because James Lott Jr. gives his opinions on this. I'll give you a little bit of a spoiler. He's not a fan. So you need to go over and listen because he does make some valid points. So please get in touch with me and let me know what you guys think about this. So the last thing that I want to talk about is Caroline Spencer. She is absolutely one of my favorite characters. I also loved Lindsay Godfrey. I am devastated. I was devastated. I think this is a dumb move because you don't have to kill her. They could have broke up. You could have done a lot of other things. Not to mention that eventually you could always bring Caroline back with a different actor or actress. But now that's not possible. I don't really agree with the decision, and I'm sad about it, but I do understand that they needed a reason to get Thomas back in town without Caroline. So, honestly, kudos to the writers for shocking me, because I promise you I did not see this coming at all. I had no idea that it was going to be death that brought Thomas back. I don't really like it, but I do like it. So, on one hand, I like it because I think it's an interesting story. But on the other hand, I'm just really sad because I like Caroline so much. I really want to know what you guys think about this. Are you okay with the death? Are you upset about the death? I want to know. So, please get in touch with me at theboldandbeautifulpodcast.com. I want to know what all of you guys think. So that brings us to the end of the week. Thank you so much for listening. I will be back in your ears next week. And maybe the truth will come out. Who knows? Don't hold your breath though. Again, thank you for listening. I hope you guys have a great week. Until next time, bye guys.